Hey, Walt here from STOGIEreview.com with another video cigar review. Kind of baby stepping my way back into the rotation. The last review I did was a short ashes review on the Los Blancos 9. This review is along the same lines. This is going to be a first impressions, although technically this isn't a first impressions. This is actually the second cigar that I've smoked. But I wanted to smoke it and talk about it anyway. So before I get to talking about this particular cigar, I need to kind of fill you in on a little bit of a backstory. So last year, I sat down with Oliva and I was discussing, I believe I was doing some sort of interview with Sam departing Oliva. Oliva wanted to get that information out. And while I was discussing that, they brought up this Studio Tobac Advisory Board thing that they were planning on doing. And the objective there was to send a small group of consumers product, get their opinions, you know, on everything, the way the cigar smokes, the packaging, you know, how, construction, and they would use that feedback to then, you know, morph or change the whatever they had in mind. And, you know, I was told, oh, you know, you're going to get some weird stuff, you know, the factory's going to put some wild stuff together, you know, you're going to get this, you're going to get that. And it sounded like a great idea. Yeah, sign me up. I'd be really happy, you know, to be a part of this. Well, that turned into just this outright marketing thing that I was really vocal about. I really had a distaste for it. We were getting letters, or at least I got two separate letters with some samplers. And, you know, the first letter was something like, you know, I hope you enjoy it, blah, blah, blah. Be sure to tell everyone about these cigars. And, you know, when I saw that line in the letter and I looked back at who I knew was on the advisory panel, it became very apparent that this was just a marketing thing and nothing else. Everyone just happened to be influential, whether they were a blogger, whether they were a longtime forum user that had a big following, whether they were really big on Twitter, big on Facebook. You know, everyone had a following of sorts. And, you know, I just started putting the pieces of the puzzles together. All those wild test blends never showed up. And, you know, it was just more and more just stuff that they were churning out to, you know, consumers at the Studio Tobac World Tour event. Actually, I don't think we got anything outside of the sampler that was available at that event. I was kind of aggravated. I did a YQMA video with Jerry and Brian on my thoughts of the whole thing. I was very vocal about it, and then after that, I never expected to be invited back to the Studio Tobac Advisory Board. I figured they were going to fire me after that, but for whatever reason, nothing ever came of it. And this year, I got a letter in the mail saying that my name was nominated by the advisory board to be, or by the advisory panel or something, to be a part of the advisory board again this year. And I thought, yeah, what the hell? I'll give it a try. Maybe it'll be different this year. After I've complained so much last year, you know, maybe they've taken it in a new direction this year. So I sent back my yes, I'd be happy to do it response, and I awaited some information. Shortly after that, I had a sampler box arrive. I'm assuming everyone got it because I got a form letter with it. And it was the same sampler box that is available, or that will be available at the Studio Tobac World Tour events. So if you're not familiar with that, Studio Tobac does these big events. You know, there's usually drinks, music, live rolling demonstrations, and they select, you know, key accounts throughout the country, and then they go over to Europe and I think some other places as well. But the events are kind of spread apart. You know, they're geographically, and then on top of that, they're spread out. So there may be like 50 events in the country spread out over maybe 3 or 4 months, something like that. And when you go to these events and you purchase a box of cigars that they're selling, they give you one of these sampler packs. The sampler packs contain 5 or 6 cigars. They're really cool packaging, big black box, big red band with cigar information on it, and inside are a variety of cigars. Again, 5 or 6, I'm not absolutely sure. One of those cigars is the Studio Tobac STEFG01. Now this is a concept blend of sorts, I guess. It's packaged the same way as last year's STDS001. So I don't know, since this is being mass produced for those events, you know, in those sampler packs, I really don't see this as, you know, the test blend or the, you know, the concept blend that the handwritten band implies, because it was produced in such numbers. Whether or not the information gathered from that sampler will be then used to turn this into something in the future, I don't know. But that's kind of the whole story of how I came to have this cigar. I don't know anything about it. All I know is that it's Connecticut wrapped, and I've been talking too long, so I had to relight it. Or touch it up at least. Now, as I said, this is the second one that I had. Based off that first one and the way the second one is starting, it's kind of similar to the the Oliva Connecticut Reserve. It's got the same bold Connecticut flavor about it. It's got plenty of body, so it's not your typical mild Connecticut. It's more medium, leaning towards medium full, and it's got some nice full flavors to it. It's smoking pretty well. I'm getting lots of dense smoke. It's coating the palate well. It's easy to get through the sinus. The room aroma is rather pleasant. It's kind of mild. It's got a little bit of a... It makes me think woody across the tongue, but it's a little dry and a little sour. It's kind of an odd combination, wood, sour, and dry finish on top of that. It's just doing some weird stuff to the tongue. It's not bad. It's off to a decent start, so I've been talking long enough. I'm going to cut the camera off. I'll probably watch another episode of Bonanza. For a show that's made in the 60s, I just started watching it a couple of weeks ago, little bits and pieces of it. You know, I come home from work, I turn the TV on, and then I start doing stuff, you know, getting ready to make dinner, things like that, while my daughter's running around. And I've really liked it. I mean, I've always been a John Wayne Western kind of guy, but, you know, this show just really appeals to me. It's difficult seeing a young Charles Ingalls play a rowdy young cowboy, which is kind of odd. But I found the series on Amazon Prime. Not all of the episodes are available, but since I'm a Prime member, I get to watch full videos or full episodes for free. So I've been kind of filling my spare time, my cigar time, with episodes of Bonanza. So I'll be back after Bonanza's over, and then we'll talk about, you know, we'll close out the cigar, let you be on your way, and that'll be that. So sit tight. Well, I'm into the final third of my Studio Tobac STEFG01, and I'm enjoying it. You know, it's smoking really well. I'm getting lots of smoke. It's nice and dense, coats the palate well, easy to get through the sinus. The room aroma isn't heavy. It's rather pleasant. It's mild. The smoke volume is excellent. The finish is still a little on the dry side. I'm still getting that odd mix of sort of woody and salty, and through the sinus I'm getting just a tiny little bit of pepper. The primary flavor is that nice rich Connecticut shade flavor that you're getting off of the wrapper. However, you know, because this is Connecticut shade, I can't help but compare it to other offerings that Oliva makes in the Connecticut market. And you know, when you take this cigar and you compare it to the Nub Connecticut, it's similar. It's more full-bodied than the Nub. However, the Nub's flavor spectrum is much wider. This is really narrow. And the same thing applies with the Oliva Connecticut Reserve. That cigar is nice and bold. It's got a medium flavor, or a medium body to it. So it's one of the more fuller Connecticut cigars on the market. This one is similar in that sense. It's a nice full-bodied Connecticut wrapped cigar. However, the Oliva Connecticut Reserve has a broader flavor profile than this as well. This just seems really narrow, and it just seems like it's missing some of the flair that you're getting in other cigars. The other cigars have more character, they're richer. This one just seems a little too straightforward. There hasn't been much change throughout the entire cigar. It's leaving me kind of wishing it were a Connecticut Reserve or a Nub Connecticut, because they just have more flavor. They're more interesting. You know, when it all comes down to it, you can't smoke this cigar unless you purchase a box and in turn get that sampler pack at the World Tour events. This one cigar it would not be enough to entice me into a box purchase. This one single stick would not draw me in. I've had some of the others as well, and I don't really want to get into those quite yet. I'll talk about those when I do their respective reviews. But this cigar is sort of like a lackluster Connecticut Reserve. It's got the same power in terms of body. The flavor profile just isn't there. It doesn't hold a candle to the other Oliva offerings. So it's just left me like underwhelmed, I guess is the best way to put it. Beautiful construction and burn. There's just not enough there in the flavor department to really win me over. So I guess on a scale, this is probably mediocre, middle of the road. So I don't know what else to say. I'm kind of running out of things to talk about. I'm pairing this up with a cup of coffee. It's still fairly early on Sunday morning. It's going really well with the coffee, but I tend to really enjoy Connecticut's and coffee. I think they go hand in hand, and this one is no different. So with that said, thanks for watching, and until next time, happy smoking.